Hi everyone, welcome to Logos College Online Learning. All right, this is Chantato. Today, this is General English 2, and we're going to start Unit 9. All right, Unit 9. So if you want to follow in your book and go to page go to page 70 in your book, all right, your New Headway 4th edition book. On page 70 starts Unit 9, and it says time for a story. Right? And a story, I'm sure you all are familiar with what stories are. They're books. It could be long books, it could be short stories. It's just something that tells the listener what happened. Some could be real, some could be fake. Like obviously Harry Potter, that's obviously fake, right? Jaws, the movie, a lot of these books, a lot of the stories get turned into movies. You might recognize some of these, but you read stories every day. Oop, that was last week's, okay. And on page 70, it says time for a story. So when we tell stories, it's also another word for it is called a narrative. This word right here, N-A-R-R-A-T-I-V-E. So a story is also a narrative. And when we tell narratives, we don't always tell it in the present tense. Some stories are in the past tense also. This unit, we're going to talk about a tense that is used quite a bit when you tell stories, because most of the time when you tell somebody what happened to you, it's already in the past. I'm sorry, it's in the past because it already happened. Right? And a lot of times we use past tense to tell stories. The past tense, there's 4 types of past tense. There's simple past, right? There's past perfect, there's past continuous. There's one more past, right? But today we're going to talk about the past perfect. Right? And if you read right here, it says Aesop's fables. Right? And a fable is a story, kind of like the ant and the grasshopper, the boy who cried wolf, the lion and the mouse, the hare and the tortoise, the town mouse and the country mouse. Right? And Aesop's fables. Aesop was a famous a Greek writer, a Greek philosopher, long time ago, around 600 BC. Right? That's 600 BC, so that's about 2,621 years ago. And he was a Greek writer, and he liked to tell stories that taught you a lesson. And fables are stories that teaches you a lesson, which is, they call it the moral. So the moral of the story is the lesson that you can learn from the story. All right? So all fables, they teach you something. When you're young, I'm sure your parents have told you some stories about things that happened. Maybe they were true, maybe they were not. And these stories were meant to teach you something when you're young. And they usually teach you what's right and what's wrong, right? And that's a moral. A moral is a lesson or guide for living that you can apply to your own life. So as you get older, you understand, if you do this, this is correct. If you do this, this is wrong. And that's what fables are meant to do. They teach you a lesson. And the morals can usually be seen through what the characters learn. And the morals, I'm sure you've seen these before, you've heard these before. These are some Lao folk tales. I think this is a story about the turtle, and then the two birds, and then as the birds fly over the village, they help rescue the turtle, but the turtle wanted to tell the villagers about how this was his great idea and plan, so he opens his mouth, and then he falls and dies. So the moral, the lesson of the story is, don't show too much ego. Don't talk about things that you haven't done. Right? And then over here, this, I think I don't remember this. I'm sure my parents told me this when I was young. About who's this? Xiang Miang says the cleverest man in the kingdom. Clever is the smartest man. I'm sure you've heard this when you were younger. So these are stories, these are examples of fables in Lao. And they want you to read the story about the bear and the traveler on page 70. And they want you to find what is the moral. What is the lesson that this story is supposed to teach you? Okay. So before we read the story and talk about the story, I want to talk to you about verb tenses, because all of this entire story is going to be in the past tense. And like I said before, the past tense, it has 4 types of past tense. And you've learned the present, which means around today, not exactly at the moment, but normally, typically, when we talk about things that we usually do every day, we use the present tense. Right? The past are things that happened maybe yesterday, maybe last week, maybe last month or last year, or a long time ago. And the past tense we say past because it's already happened, right? But look at the difference between past, present perfect, and past perfect. Right? So you've learned the past tense, such as, let's say, if I call somebody yesterday, I say, I called him yesterday, right? And you add an ed to the verb. If you say past perfect, you would say something like, I had called him yesterday before he came to class. So there's a difference there. And this unit, I'm going to explain to you what's the difference between past perfect and past tense. Look at this sentence right here. It says, Julia had traveled to hundreds of countries before she moved to Spain. Okay. So had traveled, this is an example of the past perfect. She moved to Spain. This is an example of past simple. So look on this timeline right here. You have 2 X's. Past perfect is to describe an action that occurred before another event in the past. So all of this is still happening in the past. But one action, one of these happens before another action in the past. So let's look at this sentence. Julia had traveled to hundreds of countries before she moved to Spain. So what happened first? What happened first was she traveled to hundreds of countries. So this action is this X right here. This happened before this X. She traveled to hundreds of other countries, and then she decided that she wanted to move to Spain. So here she's traveling to another country. She's still traveling, and then she moved to Spain. Right? So this is what we use the past perfect for. We use it to we talk about an action that happened before another action in the past. All right, let me explain more. Let's look at this story right here. This story is titled The Bear and the Travelers. I'm not going to read to you this story yet because I'm going to play you the audio, and then we'll analyze, we'll look into further detail all about every sentence of this story. I want you to look at first here. Let's look at this picture right here. All right, and what do you think is going on here? And it looks like there's two guys, and these are the travelers, the people traveling around. They're walking around, right? Then you have a bear. It looks like there's one man in a tree and one man lying on the ground, and the bear, looks like the bear is talking into the man's ear. It says the bear whispered in his ear. So to whisper means to talk really, really softly, kind of like this, like, psst, psst, hey guys, hey. So when you whisper, you don't talk very loudly, right? They want you to read this story, but I want you to go over to exercise 3. And we'll analyze this story starting from exercise 3. Right? And they want you to complete the questions and the answers on exercise 3. And number 1, it says, where blank the travelers blank along a country road. Right? And if over here on your right, you could see that this is a story also, the same story. And the answer here says along a country road. If the first sentence of the story says 2 travelers were walking slowly along a country road. So what question did you ask if your answer is along a country road? Where, there we go. So you ask, where were the travelers walking? There you go. Okay. 2 travelers were walking slowly along a country road. Right? Where were the travelers walking? Along the country road. Let's look at number 2. It said, because they were looking for work. The next sentence says, they were going to the city because they were looking for work. All right, so what would you ask? You would ask, why were they going to the city? Because they were looking for work. Number 3, they saw a huge bear. Let's come over here. Suddenly, in the woods in front of them, they saw a huge bear. All right, suddenly in the woods, it's like a forest. So you would ask, what? Remember in English, when we ask questions, we use the verb do, unless we have the verb to be. Right? And the past tense of the verb do is did. What did they see in the woods? They saw a huge bear. Next sentence. The men were terrified. So that means they were scared. They were very scared. They were afraid. One of them ran away, climbed a tree, and hid. The other man fell to the ground and pretended to be dead. Okay, so what did the men do? All right, so one climbed, past tense, in a tree, and the other pretended to be dead. When you pretend to do something, you're faking it. It's not real. Like Sometimes you could pretend to like somebody, or you could pretend to like somebody's cooking. You're like, oh yeah, this is really good, but it's not really good. That's to pretend. So he wasn't really dead, he just pretended to be dead. Next question. All right. The bear came towards him. It bent down, sniffed him, and whispered something in his ear. Then it wandered away. All right, so it came up to him, then it smelled him, and it said something in his ear very softly, and then it walked away. Then it went away. All right. So the question is, what did the bear do? All right. It bent down, sniffed, and wandered away. Okay. So you have your answers to 3. And you notice all of these are in the past tense. All right. Were, that's the past tense of to be. Did is a past tense of do. Climbed, past tense of climb. Pretended, past tense of pretend. But there's other types of past tense, like I said before, not just past simple. Look at exercise 4. I'm going to play the audio for you, and they're going to read you this story. And you have lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. You notice they want you to find these places where there's 3 dots. There's dot, dot, dot. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places in the story. I already did number 1 for you. I want you to listen to the story and then figure out where number 2 goes, and where does number 3, number 4, and where does number 5 go. All right. So number 1, I already did for you because they had walked 20 miles. I already put it right here. All right. So I'm going to play the audio for you and listen for the next 4 answers. Oops.
Tape script 9.2. The Bear and the Travellers.
2 travellers were walking slowly along a country road. They were going to the city because they were looking for work. They were tired because they had walked 20 miles, and they were hungry because they hadn't eaten all day. Suddenly, in the woods in front of them, they saw a huge bear. The men were terrified. One of them ran away, climbed a tree, and hid. The other man fell to the ground and pretended to be dead. He had heard that bears don't like eating dead meat. The bear came towards him. It bent down, sniffed him, and whispered something in his ear. Then it wandered away. After the bear had gone, the other man came down from his tree and went to see how his friend was. He wanted to know what the bear had said to him. "The bear gave me some advice," said his companion. "He said, next time you go on a journey, travel with someone who won't leave you at the first sign of danger." The moral of this story is, choose your friends carefully.
Okay, so there you go. I'm filling in all the answers for you, and if you notice that, I'm sorry, give me that. Okay, all right. If you notice, answer number 1, look at the ones in red. It says because they had walked 20 miles. And then number 2 says the bear had said to him. Number 3, because they had not eaten all day. Number 4, after the bear had gone. And number 5, he had heard the bears don't like eating dead meat. So the word they have in common here is had, H-A-D. And that word is very important because we use it to make the past perfect. And remember, the past perfect is something that happened before another event in the past. So if we look at this story, they were going to the city because they were looking for work. Oops, sorry. Okay. They were tired. Right? And number 1 says they were tired because they had walked 20 miles. So this is in past perfect because this happened before they became tired. All right? So if you start walking first, and then you walk 20 miles, now you're tired. See? So they were walking, they walked 20 miles before they became tired in the past. Right? And they were hungry, and the answer is 3, because they hadn't eaten all day. Right? So when the day started, they didn't eat yet. They had not eaten all day, and that is why they are now hungry. Let's go down to this paragraph. The other man fell to the ground and pretended to be dead. And the answer here is 5. He had heard that bears don't like eating dead meat. So what happened first? What happened first is long before this happened to him, before he was walking in the woods and saw this bear, he had heard that bears don't like eating dead meat. Maybe somebody told him when he was younger. So now, this happened before he fell to the ground and pretended to be dead. Okay. So the bear came towards him, said something to him, and then it ran away. It went away. And number 4, after the bear had gone, the other man came down from his tree and went to see how his friend was. So what happened first? What happened first was the past perfect, which is the bear left after the bear had gone. So the bear went away, and then the man came down from the tree. Right? And then he went to see how his friend was. He wanted to know what the bear had said to him. Notice, had said to him. So the bear said something to his friend first before he wanted to know what he said. This is why we have to use past perfect. And it says, the bear gave me some advice, and he said that next time you go on a journey, travel with someone who won't leave you at the first sign of danger. And he says the moral of the story, what is the lesson that you learned? And it said the lesson was true friends are hard to find. Okay. Do you agree with that? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I do agree. Really good friends are hard to find, and your real friends are there for you when you need help, right? So this story is a fable because it teaches you a lesson, and I'm sure that you've heard this when you were younger also. All right, choose your friends wisely, and make friends with people who won't leave you or who will take care of you when you need help. All right, let's go to page 71, this blue box. It says grammar spot. All right. So the tenses in the verbs in bold, they were looking. That's called past continuous. They saw a bear. That's past simple. They had walked. All right, this is past perfect. Look at the two sentences here. They didn't eat all day. They did not eat all day. They were hungry. So what happened first? Were they hungry first, or they didn't eat all day? If they didn't eat all day happened first, and both are still in the past, if you want to put it into one sentence, all right, these are two sentences. If you want to combine to make one sentence, the action that happened first has to be past perfect. Right? So what happened first? They had not eaten all day. So they were hungry. Right? So the action that happened first in the past has to be in the past perfect. The past perfect expresses an action before another time in the past. And how do we make this tense? And it's simply had plus the past participle. If you don't remember what the past participle is, if you go to page 158 in your book, it tells you all the past participles. Not all. It probably tells you the irregular ones. Right? This is Unit 9. This is on page 144. If you want to go to page 144 in your book. And this gets into more detail about the past tense. And it's HAD plus ED, which is the past participle. So regular verbs, you just add an ED, and it's the past participle. But there are many verbs that are irregular, like the verb to be or the verb eat. Right? You say eat. Past tense is ate. Past participle is eaten. You notice it doesn't end in the ED. But verbs like call, you say call. Past tense is called. And past participle is also called. You just simply add an ED. So verbs that you add just an ED to, that's regular verbs. The verbs that are irregular, you don't add an ED. All right? They don't follow the rules. That's why they're different. And there's many irregular verbs. And the ones that you'll see the most, you'll see on page 158. I also gave you a slideshow, or I put a slide on the slideshow about some common irregular verbs. These are verbs that you use every day, right? To be. Be, past tense is was, were. Past participle is been. Right? Come, came, come. Right? Do, did, done. Drink, drank, drunk. All right? Go, went, gone. So these are words that you use every day when you speak. So these are the most common ones. I don't expect you to memorize every past participle. Many people, even native English speakers, don't know every past participle. So there's no way that you should be expected to know. But if you have a question, if the verb is regular or irregular, you should just look it up, use a grammar dictionary, or go to page 158 in your book. The way you make a positive statement with past perfect is just say I, or he, she, or it, you, we, they, and then had. All right. You want to say had not, you could say hadn't. All right. You want to say no, you say hadn't, had not, and then the ed past participle. Or if it's irregular, the irregular past participle. All right. Remember, when you want to ask a question in English, you switch the subject and linking verb or helping verb. So you say, instead of saying I had left already, you say had I left already, had she left already. Or instead of saying he had already left, he had left already, you say had he left already. You want to answer yes, I had, no, they had not, or you could say hadn't. All right. Past perfect tense, again, affirmative means a positive statement. He had finished the test when the bell rang. All right. So what happened first? Well, this is in past perfect. So this happened first. He finished his test first, and then the bell rang. Negative statement, you want to say no. He had not finished the test when the bell rang. So what happened first? He wasn't finished yet, and then the bell rang. And look at the question. Again, you switch the subject and the linking verb, the helping verb. Had he finished the test when the bell rang? So past perfect. Therefore, actions finished before another action in the past. Right? And an action happened before a specific time in the past. Right? Look at this example. John had gone out when his wife arrived in the office. Right? So what happened first? What happened first is John left. Right? He left his office. Right? And then his wife came, or his wife arrived to his office. So he wasn't there because he already left. Look at this sentence. Julia had never been to an opera before last night. So before last night, what happened first? She has never been to an opera. And then she finally went to one last night. You'll hear words like already, yet, for, and since a lot when you use past perfect. All right. Let's backtrack. Let's go to exercise 5 on page 71. It says, why were the travelers tired? Here's your answers over here for you. They were tired because they had walked 20 miles. This happened before they were tired. So you have to use past perfect. Number 2, why were they hungry? Because they hadn't eaten all day. Again, past perfect happens before past. Why did one of them pretend to be dead? Because he had heard that bears don't like eating dead meat. All right? This happens before they pretended to be dead. When did the man come down from the tree? After the bear had gone. What did he want to know? He wanted to know what the bear had said to his friend. So remember, past perfect. You put had and then the past participle. All right. The past participles, the regular ones, you add an ed. The irregular ones, there's no ed, if you notice, and that's on page 158 in your book. Page 158 in your book has the common irregular verbs. Right. Let's look at page 71, practice. They want you to look at the pronunciation, but I'm just going to read it to you, for you, instead of you listening to the British audio, because sometimes it could be very hard to listen to the British accent. Number 1, they want you to know if the contraction d can be difficult if you hear it or not. All right. So look at number 1. It says they'd walked 20 miles. So instead of saying they had, you can combine the two words. You can put the two words together and say they'd walked 20 miles. So number 1, you would check number 1 because, yes, you would hear the d sound because they say they'd. Right? Number 2, you read it like this: one man hid in a tree. You don't hear it. Number 3, the other pretended to be dead. Here, you don't hear the had as a d. Number 4, when the bear had gone, the man came down. Here, you hear the word had, but you don't hear the contraction. And then number 5, he felt bad because he'd left his friend. So the two you answer, you check, would be number 1 and number 5. All right. I want to get into more detail with you about past perfect, past in relation to each other. I want to make sure that you understand that past perfect happens before another action happens in the past. Right. Look at number 2, or exercise 2. They want you to know what's the difference in meaning. Right. I want you to look at the past perfect. I underlined it for you. She'd she'd cooked dinner. So what happened first? It says, when I arrived, she'd cooked dinner. So she'd cooked dinner here. When she'd cooked dinner, it would be right here, right? Because she cooked dinner before you got home. So when you arrived would be right here, right? So this is in the past perfect. She had cooked dinner because it happened before you arrived. Let's look at number 2. She spoke good French because she had lived in France. All right, so this is the same thing. She had lived in France. This happened before she became very good at speaking French. So this, she spoke good French after she lived in France. She had lived in France for many years. Let's look at number 3. I listened to music when I had done my homework. When I'd done my homework. So what happened first? Did you listen to music first, or did you do your homework? Here, because I'd done my homework is in past perfect, this shows that you did your homework first. So this sentence is in past perfect. And after you did your homework, you listened to music, right? So you listen to music after you did your homework. Since you did your homework first, in the past, you have to put it in past perfect. Okay. One more. When I got home, the children had gone to bed. So were the kids asleep? Were the children asleep? Or did you get home first? Here, this sentence means that the children have already gone to sleep before you got home. So children have gone to sleep, and then you got home. All right? Because this is in past perfect, this means this happened before the past tense or something else in the past. And the last one, she gave me a book, but I'd read it. All right? So you already read this book. She gave you a book, but it's something that you have already read. So that happened before she gave you the book. Okay. All right, let's go to one more exercise. This is the bottom. This is exercise 3. And if you notice, I answered for you because the answers aren't important. I want to make sure that you know the difference between past perfect and past tense, past simple. Right? So part A, they want you to finish part A with sentences from part B. And A, number 1, says, I was nervous on the plane because, and your answer is because I had never flown before. So what happened first? You were nervous on the plane, or you have never been on a plane before? Right? So what happened first has to be in the past perfect, which is, I'd never flown before. So here, this is the red X, right? And this is the blue X, because you have never been on a plane before. Let me change this color. There you go. All right. You have never flown before. This happened before you got on a plane. Number 2, when I'd had breakfast, your answer is, I went to work. So what did you do first? Did you eat breakfast first? Or did you go to work first? The answer is you ate breakfast first. So if you eat breakfast first, this happens before you went to work, all right? So because you ate breakfast first, it has to be in the past perfect. When I'd had breakfast, when I had breakfast, I went to work. All right. Number 3, I met a girl at a party. Her face was familiar and is matched with, I was sure I had seen her somewhere before. So what happened first? You seen this girl somewhere before, or you met her at a party? Notice this is in the past perfect. So this action happened first. Okay? You saw her somewhere before. You had seen her somewhere before, probably at school or at a restaurant or at work. All right? Here. And then you saw her at a party. Number 4, I felt tired all day yesterday because I hadn't slept the night before. Again, this is in the past perfect, so this has to happen before you felt tired, right? You didn't sleep well, and then you felt tired. Number 5, my wife was angry with me. Why? Because I'd forgotten our anniversary. Oh no, you don't, guys, don't ever forget your anniversary. Trust me. All right, so first, you forgot your anniversary. Then what happened? Then your wife got mad at you. All right? And finally, number 6, the little girl was crying because she had fallen over and hurt herself. So what happened first? She fell over, and then it hurt, so she started crying. Okay, that was a lot. All right, that was a lot. I think I'm going to end it there. I was going to go into your workbook, but that's something I can go over with you. I want you to look at exercise. Well, I will do this workbook with you on your Google Meet session with me next week, next Monday. So this way we can use this as a review, okay? So a reminder today what we did was we talked about the past perfect tense, and we use the past perfect to talk about an action that happened before another action in the past, right? And the red X is your past perfect, and the blue X is your past simple, but all these actions, remember, all still happen in the past. I know that could be kind of confusing. I'm going to send back a homework. I'm not send back. I'm going to send you a homework assignment to you, okay? And again, you'll have 5 days to do your homework assignment, and make sure tonight you check in and check your attendance. That should be the first thing you do, is check your attendance question, say you're here, and then watch this video, and then complete your homework in Google Form, and then send it out to me, okay? Okay, that's it. Remember, we have a Q&A session on Monday. I'll post the meeting link again on Monday, next Monday. But if you have any questions before that, please send me a WhatsApp message or an email or a message on Google Classroom. Okay, thanks for watching. Sorry, that's a long video. You have any questions, please ask. And I hope you have a good day. Stay safe. Bye-bye.